She won his heart, but she's hiding a secret that can destroy everything. Before the story begins, comment below which city you're watching the video from. We love getting to know our viewers. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more exciting stories. Enjoy the story and see you soon. The light rain tapped on the window as Daniel Souza stared at the empty room. Everything there seemed frozen in time, a painful reminder of the woman he had lost. Anna, his wife, had been gone for just over 2 months, taking with her their dreams of the future and leaving behind a daughter he barely knew how to care for. Sophia, fragile and defenseless, was now his only company in a house that was once full of laughter and love. Days were all the same for Daniel. He woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of his daughter crying, unsure if it was hunger or the absence of the mother she never met. He struggled to keep up with the routine, feeding Sophia, taking her to the pediatrician, and going back to work, where responsibilities piled up. The office he had founded with such effort was on the verge of chaos. Without Anna, he felt lost among the tasks and paperwork, every decision weighing more heavily on his shoulders, already bent under the burden of grief. One particularly difficult morning, Daniel arrived at the office late and found Camila waiting for him at the reception. The young assistant had been hired temporarily to help organize the company during Anna's maternity leave. Now, even after his wife's passing, Camila remained there, a quiet relief amid the turmoil. She was efficient and polite. But there was something about her presence that Daniel couldn't define, a kind of sweetness that seemed to momentarily melt the ice wall he had built around his heart. "Good morning, Mr. Daniel," Camila greeted with a discreet smile, holding a stack of documents that needed his signature. Daniel nodded, too weary to return the smile. He walked through the door to his office and let her follow. Camila arranged the desk swiftly, placing the papers and reports exactly where he would need them. During the ensuing silence, Daniel noticed something different that morning. Her presence didn't feel as intrusive as before. On the contrary, it brought an unexpected sense of calm. "How are you managing with Sophia?" Camila asked, hesitant, as if afraid to cross an invisible line. Daniel took a deep breath. The question knotted his throat, but he answered honestly, "I don't know. I'm trying, but it feels like it's never enough. She keeps crying. Maybe she misses her." Camila nodded, her gaze softening. She seemed to understand the pain he couldn't yet put into words. "If you need help with Sophia, I know a few tricks. I have 2 nephews, and I know how tricky babies can be." Daniel hesitated. Declining help had become a reflex, but for some reason he couldn't say no this time. Maybe you could stop by sometime," he murmured, more to himself than to her. Camila smiled, not pressing the matter further. That same night, Daniel returned home and found Sophia crying, as usual. He awkwardly picked her up, trying to rock her in a way that would be soothing. His movements were clumsy, and a wave of helplessness washed over him. As he paced through the dark room, his phone vibrated in his pocket. It was a message from Camila. "Is everything okay?" For a moment, he was surprised by the gesture. That small, genuine concern seemed to touch something inside him he thought was dead. Responding with a simple, "Yes, we're okay," he went back to rocking Sophia, and this time her crying slowly faded into quiet murmurs. Watching his daughter finally sleep in his arms, Daniel realized something had changed that day. Perhaps there was no hope for the love he once knew, but a new promise lay ahead, a promise that began with the presence of a young assistant who in some way was starting to illuminate the darkness he carried. With Sophia asleep and the house draped in silence, Daniel allowed himself for the first time in a long while to close his eyes, and imagine a future where the pain wasn't unbearable. A future where he, Sophia, and Camilla might find something resembling peace. And without realizing it, he fell asleep with the feeling that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't so alone anymore. The sun peeked through the curtains, bringing a morning that felt a little lighter than the previous ones. Daniel woke before Sophia, and for the first time, he didn't feel crushed by exhaustion. Looking at his daughter still asleep in her crib, a thought hit him. He was beginning to adjust to the new routine, even though nothing about it was easy. That afternoon, Camilla came over as they had arranged. Sophia was fussy, crying non-stop, and Daniel, exhausted, handed her to Camilla with a mix of relief and guilt on his face. "I don't know what to do anymore," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "I've tried everything, but she won't stop." Camilla smiled confidently and took Sophia in her arms as if it were the most natural thing in the world. She began to hum a lullaby Daniel didn't know, and within minutes, the crying ceased. Sophia stared at Camilla with wide, curious eyes, babbling nonsensical words that made Camilla laugh. "How did you do that?" Daniel asked, genuinely surprised. Camilla shrugged playfully. "Babies like music and patience. I think you're so focused on getting it right that you forgot to breathe. It's going to be okay, Daniel." He watched her for a few moments, almost mesmerized by how easy she made it seem. It wasn't just her skill with children. There was something soothing about her presence, as if she were absorbing some of the pain he carried. While Camilla played with Sophia on the living room floor, Daniel allowed himself to relax. He stood back, arms crossed over his chest, feeling a flicker of hope for the first time since Anna's death. Sophia giggled loudly as Camilla tickled her feet, and the sound filled the room like light banishing shadows. "You're really good with her," Daniel said, offering a shy smile. Camilla looked up at him and winked, as if to say, "Of course." The moment felt simple, but to Daniel it was like regaining something he thought he had lost forever, the ability to smile. As twilight fell, Camilla started preparing tea in the kitchen while Sophia drifted off to sleep in her crib. Daniel leaned against the doorway, watching her quietly. She looked comfortable there, as if she already belonged in that space that had once felt like nothing more than a monument to pain. "It's been a while since anyone came over," Daniel said softly. "Since Anna passed, I didn't want to see anyone." Camilla glanced over her shoulder with a gentle expression. "I understand, but you don't have to carry everything alone, Daniel. It's too heavy." For a moment he wanted to open up to her, to talk about the lonely nights and the fears that haunted him, but the words stayed stuck in his throat. Instead, he just nodded. The feeling that he could trust her grew with each passing minute, but something inside him still hesitated, as if he didn't want to fully surrender to the comfort she offered. Later, as they sipped tea in silence, their conversation shifted to lighter topics. Daniel spoke about Anna, not with sadness, but with fondness. Camilla listened without interrupting, asking only gentle questions. "She was amazing," Daniel said with a wistful smile. "And I never imagined I could go on without her. Sometimes it feels like I'm failing Sophia." Camilla touched his hand lightly, a simple gesture full of meaning. "You're not failing. You're here for her. And that's what matters most." That small touch seemed to break an invisible barrier between them. It was as if, in that moment, Daniel saw Camilla differently, not just as an efficient assistant, but as someone who could be part of his life, maybe, in time, even more than that. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. On the contrary, it felt as if both of them understood that words weren't necessary to share that moment. Sophia, asleep in her crib nearby, was proof that a new beginning was possible, no matter how unlikely it seemed. When Camilla finally said goodbye that night, Daniel walked her to the door. There was a brief moment when their eyes met, carrying something unspoken but deeply felt. "Thank you, Camila, for everything," he said sincerely. "I'll always be around if you need me," she replied with a smile. As Daniel closed the door, he felt an unexpected sense of peace. For the first time in a long while, he believed he might find a way forward. In the crib, Sophia breathed softly, and Daniel knew he wasn't alone anymore. Somehow Camila was beginning to fill the voids left by loss, not just in his life, but also in his daughter's heart. In the weeks that followed, an unexpected lightness crept into Daniel's home. Mornings that were once filled with exhaustion and frustration now began with Sophia's gentle laughter. Camila spent more and more time with them, and her presence seemed to transform the atmosphere, like the chill of morning was slowly being replaced by the warmth of something new. One sunny afternoon, Daniel did something out of the ordinary. He invited Camila to dinner. Not an office meeting or a casual visit, but a real dinner. He wanted to thank her for everything she had done, but deep down, he knew it was more than gratitude. He felt good around her, as if, after so long, his life was reorganizing around a new possibility. "This will be good for all of us," he said over the phone, trying to sound more relaxed than he really was. Camila accepted the invitation with her usual ease. On the night of the dinner, Daniel made an effort to create a welcoming atmosphere. He set the dining table, something he hadn't done since Anna's death, and put on a clean, albeit wrinkled shirt. Sophia, for her part, was more excited than usual. The little girl seemed to sense that the moment was special, even if she didn't fully understand why. When Camila arrived, she brought a bottle of wine and a box of desserts. She was simple but radiant. Daniel felt his heart race, surprised by the teenage-like nervousness he hadn't experienced in years. The dinner was filled with laughter and light conversations. Sophia played the role of a tiny hostess, showing off her toys and drawing smiles from both Camila and Daniel. At one point, while the little girl played on the living room rug, Daniel and Camila exchanged a silent look across the table. "Thank you for coming," he said softly. "Thank you for inviting me." "I'm happy to be here with you two," she replied. There was something in her smile that felt like a promise of a new beginning, a feeling that grew slowly but steadily, like they were relearning how to live side by side. When Sophia finally fell asleep, Daniel and Camila sat on the couch, the wine bottle nearly empty between them. Their conversation flowed naturally, as if there was no rush to end the night. Camila shared stories about her childhood and her nephews, and for the first time, Daniel spoke openly about Anna, not with sorrow, but with the tenderness of cherished memories. "She was incredible," Daniel said, his eyes glimmering. "But somehow I feel like I need to move forward, for myself and for Sophia." Camila listened in silence, respectful. When he finished, she moved closer slowly, as if not wanting to invade his space. Then it happened. A kiss, gentle and hesitant but laden with meaning. Daniel closed his eyes, allowing himself to forget the pain of the past for a moment. Camila responded with the same tenderness, as if both knew this kiss was too significant to rush. When they finally pulled away, still holding hands, they shared a knowing look. There was relief and hope in that connection. They didn't need to say anything. Both knew something had changed, and for the first time, it didn't feel wrong. The night ended with Camila saying goodbye at the door. Daniel escorted her out, feeling that something greater was building between them. "Good night, Daniel," she said with a serene smile. "Good night, Camila. And thank you." She didn't ask what for, but the smile on her lips said she understood perfectly. As Daniel closed the door, he breathed deeply, feeling lighter. In her crib, Sophia slept peacefully, and he knew that no matter how challenging the road ahead might be, he had found a new way to move forward, Sophia's presence in his life had become more than a reason to survive. It was a promise for the future. Camilla's continued presence in their home felt natural, as if she was meant to be there. And soon enough, they made their relationship official. Camila moved in with Daniel and Sophia, and surprisingly, Sophia adapted easily, calling Camila auntie at first, but gradually seeing her as a motherly figure. Despite the tranquility, Daniel couldn't shake an unease growing inside him. Little things, like Camilla's hurried phone calls or her reluctance to discuss certain topics, began to raise doubts. He tried to dismiss them, thinking it was just his lingering fear of trusting again. One night, over dinner, Camila brought up an unexpected conversation. "Daniel, I was thinking it might be a good idea to transfer some company assets into my name. It would make things easier. With me handling it, you'd have more time for Sophia." Daniel raised his eyebrows, surprised by the suggestion. "Why would we need to do that now?" he asked, trying to keep his tone neutral. Camila gave a calm smile, as if her proposal were entirely reasonable. "It's just a formality. I'm already helping at the office. It would make things a lot easier. That's all." Though her words were reassuring, something about the request unsettled Daniel. He wanted to trust her, or at least wanted to believe he could, but he couldn't ignore the voice in his head urging caution. "I think we need more time to consider this," he replied, ending the discussion. Camila didn't insist, but her gaze made it clear she had hoped for a different response. That night, Daniel found it difficult to sleep. He wanted to believe Camilla's intentions were genuine, but the shadow of doubt loomed larger with every passing thought. In the following weeks, Camila became increasingly affectionate with Sophia. The two grew closer than ever, and Daniel tried to convince himself that he was just being paranoid. Still, the unease inside him continued to grow. He noticed every move, every expression, as if searching for something to justify his fears. Then one night, the doubt became unbearable. Daniel woke to the sound of soft footsteps in the house. He got up quietly and followed the noise, finding Camila in the living room whispering on the phone. She spoke in a low voice, but he managed to catch a few words before she moved to the hallway. "It's not time yet. He needs to sign the papers first." Daniel's heart raced. He didn't want to believe what he had just heard, but the words hung in the air like a silent threat. He returned to the bedroom without making a sound, trying to gather his thoughts. He needed to figure out what was happening, but he couldn't act hastily. The only thing he knew for sure was that Sophia had to be protected at all costs. Camila returned to the bedroom shortly after, lying down beside him as if nothing had happened. Daniel closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, aware that he needed to be careful. The road ahead was going to be more complicated than he had imagined. It was a quiet night when Sophia woke up, uncomfortable in the dark. Her small, bare feet touched the cold floor as she got up to get some water. Walking carefully so as not to wake her father, she stopped when she heard soft voices coming from the living room. Curious, the little girl approached and saw Camila leaning against the wall, whispering on the phone. Her tone was cold, completely different from the sweet voice she always used with her and Daniel. Sophia remained silent, trying to understand what was going on. Then, a phrase captured her attention like an alarm ringing in her mind. "I need to finish this soon. He trusts me, but it won't last. Once he signs, it'll all be ours. And the tea, we'll take care of the rest." Sophia froze. Her heart pounded as she tried to comprehend the meaning behind those words. The tea? Was Camila planning to harm her father? Fear gripped her completely. Without thinking, she ran back to the bedroom, jumping into Daniel's bed. "Daddy! Daddy!" she whispered urgently, shaking his shoulders. Daniel woke with a start, still groggy. "What's wrong, Sophia? Are you okay?" Sophia took a deep breath, her eyes filled with worry. "Auntie Camila." She said on the phone that she's going to put poison in your tea. I heard her say it." Daniel's eyes widened, his mind spinning with the implications of his daughter's words. His heart tightened, but he knew he couldn't show panic in front of Sophia. He needed to act calmly. "It's okay, sweetheart. Thank you for telling me. I'll take care of it, but you need to trust me, okay?" he said, pulling her into a reassuring hug. With Sophia back asleep, Daniel sat on the bed, staring into the dark. Everything made sense now. The mysterious phone calls, the pressure to transfer assets. He couldn't confront Camila directly without proof, and he couldn't risk Sophia being in danger. He had to be cautious. The next morning, while preparing breakfast, Daniel heard Camila's light footsteps entering the kitchen. "Good morning," she said with a smile, placing the kettle on the stove. "I'll make us some tea. You need to relax a little." Daniel forced a smile, though inside his heart pounded. The perfect opportunity was right in front of him. He needed to act quickly and without raising suspicion. "Great. I could really use some," he replied casually. When Camila set the cups on the table and turned to grab the biscuits, Daniel quickly swapped the cups. His mind raced. He had to stay calm and hope Sophia was wrong, but he couldn't take any chances. Camila returned and sat at the table, handing him a cup. Daniel brought the drink to his lips, pretending to take a sip, but staying alert. Camila took a long sip from her own cup, smiling contentedly. "It's good, isn't it?" she remarked casually. Daniel nodded, keeping his eyes on her. Minutes passed, and the silence between them grew heavy. Suddenly, Camila clutched her stomach, a look of discomfort crossing her face. I don't feel well," she murmured, struggling to stand. She stumbled, her breathing heavy and erratic, and collapsed to her knees on the floor. Daniel rushed over, supporting her as she lost strength. "Camila!" he called out, his voice controlled, though an avalanche of emotions surged within him. He grabbed his phone and called an ambulance, trying to sound concerned, but unable to suppress the coldness that now filled his heart. Camila was being taken to the hospital, but not as she had planned. The sound of sirens echoed through the street as the ambulance raced through the quiet night, taking Camila unconscious to the hospital. Daniel followed closely behind, driving in silence, his knuckles white from gripping the steering wheel. Sophia was safe at home, under the care of a trusted babysitter he had called in a hurry. His mind buzzed with a mix of relief and tension. Camila's plan had failed, but he knew this was far from the end of the story. At the hospital, Daniel waited with forced patience in the waiting room, his hands clasped and his gaze distant. A few hours later, a doctor approached. "Miss Camila is out of danger," the doctor said. "But there's something you need to know. She's pregnant." The ground seemed to vanish beneath Daniel's feet. The doctor's announcement hit him like a punch to the stomach. Camila was pregnant. The shock soon gave way to confusion and suspicion. Was the child his? How had he missed this? Moments later, another familiar face appeared at the hospital. Leonardo, his best friend, and the company's marketing director. He rushed through the door, wearing a mask of concern. However, the moment he saw Daniel, his expression shifted to something darker and colder. "We need to talk, Daniel," Leonardo said bluntly. The two moved to a secluded corner of the hospital. Daniel didn't need to hear much to know that Leonardo's presence was no coincidence. The cynical smile forming on his friend's face was confirmation of everything Daniel had feared. "So you know," Leonardo said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Camila is pregnant, but the baby isn't yours. It's mine." Daniel felt the blood freeze in his veins, but he remained silent, waiting for more. "It was all planned, Daniel, from the start. Camila got close to you because of me. The plan was simple: destroy you and take what's yours." Daniel shook his head in disbelief, trying to process the words. Why? Why would you do this? We were friends." Leonardo let out a bitter laugh. "Friends? I was never really your friend, Daniel. I always loved Anna, and you stole her from me. I lost her because of you. When she died, I saw my chance to ruin you and everything you hold dear." The pain Daniel felt now was indescribable. Anna had never mentioned anything about a relationship with Leonardo. The betrayal ran far deeper than he could have ever imagined. "And Camila? Did she know everything?" Daniel murmured, still in shock. Leonardo nodded without remorse. "Of course, Camila was with me from the start, but she didn't expect to get so involved. That was her mistake, not mine." Daniel felt rage building inside him, but held it back. Every word from Leonardo was a dagger to his chest, but he knew he couldn't lose control. He had to protect Sophia at all costs. "You won't destroy anything else in my life, Leonardo," Daniel said, his voice low and firm. Leonardo merely shrugged, as if he didn't care. "I think it's too late to stop it." Daniel walked away, leaving his friend standing in the empty hallway. The revelation that the baby was Leonardo's, and that Camila had been part of such a vile scheme, left him devastated. But one thing was certain: he had to be stronger than ever to protect his daughter and everything that mattered to him. The hospital, quiet and illuminated by cold lights, felt more suffocating with every step Daniel took. The conversation with Leonardo echoed in his mind like a nightmare. Camila, pregnant with his best friend's child and complicit in a plan to ruin him. He felt betrayed from all sides, as if Anna's death had opened a door to an abyss of lies and manipulation. Back at home, Daniel entered Sophia's room, where the little girl slept peacefully. Seeing her, he remembered why he had to keep his head held high. Sophia was his priority, his only reason to go on. As he tucked her in under the blanket, something different caught his eye in the corner of the room. An old cardboard box he didn't remember seeing there before. Curious, he opened the box. Inside, he found old photos and letters from Anna, memories from the time they had started their life together. Among the papers, an envelope stood out. The letter, dated a few years before Anna had met him, bore a name that made Daniel's breath catch: Leonardo. Daniel hesitated for a moment, but his need to understand what was happening outweighed everything. With trembling hands, he opened the letter and began to read. Its contents were devastating. Anna and Leonardo had had a brief relationship in the past, something she had never told Daniel. The letter explained that Anna had ended things after discovering she was pregnant, not with Daniel's child, but with Leonardo's. The truth hit Daniel like a merciless blow. Sophia wasn't his biological daughter. She was Leonardo's child. Daniel slumped against the wall, stunned. The pieces of the puzzle fit together cruelly. Anna, afraid of the scandal and wanting a stable life for her daughter, had never told either man the truth. She had chosen to move forward with Daniel, leaving the past behind and carrying the secret to her grave. Once again, Daniel's world crumbled. Now he had to deal not only with Leonardo and Camila's betrayal, but also with the hidden truth about Sophia, the little girl he had always loved as his own. The night dragged on, and Daniel lay awake staring at the ceiling as the words from Anna's letter swirled in his mind. He knew he had to make a decision. The truth about Sophia was a ticking time bomb, but he couldn't let it destroy the girl's life. The love he felt for her didn't change because of a DNA test or past choices. In the morning, Sophia appeared sleepy, dragging her favorite blanket behind her. Daniel smiled at her, a sad but genuine smile. "Daddy, are you okay?" Sophia asked, tilting her head with innocent curiosity. He knelt beside her and hugged her tightly. "Yes, my love, I'm okay. And no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. Always." Sophia smiled, satisfied with his answer, and ran off to get her toys. Daniel watched her, his heart heavy but resolute. No matter what biology said, Sophia was his daughter. He would be her father until the end. And Leonardo would never have the right to destroy what he and Sophia had built together. Daniel took a deep breath. He knew the road ahead would be tough, but one thing was clear. He would fight for his daughter. As the day wore on, Daniel kept Anna's letter in his pocket, feeling the weight of the truth with every step he took. However, he decided he needed to share the discovery with someone. The thought of how Sophia would handle the truth consumed his thoughts. She was just a child, innocent and happy by his side. How could he tell her the truth without destroying her? With a heavy heart, Daniel went to visit Camila in the hospital. The young woman, now awake and pale, lay in bed with an IV in her arm, but still wore that deceptive smile. As soon as he entered the room, she tried to smile, but his expression made her retreat. "It's over, Camila. I know everything." "Leonardo confessed," Daniel said, his voice low but firm. Camila sighed and looked away, as if she knew the battle was lost. There was no room for lies anymore. "I got too involved. It wasn't supposed to be like this," she murmured, her gaze distant. "And Sophia? Was she part of the plan too?" Daniel asked, no longer hiding his contempt. Camila frowned. "Sophia is your daughter, Daniel. At least that's what I thought. I didn't know anything about her past until Leonardo told me." Daniel narrowed his eyes, searching for any sign of truth in Camila's words. Then it hit him. She didn't know about the letter. The fact that Sophia was Leonardo's daughter had been hidden from everyone, just as Anna had planned. "Anna never told anyone," Daniel whispered more to himself than to Camila. "She wanted to protect Sophia and me." Camila observed him curiously. "What are you going to do now? Are you going to give Sophia to Leonardo? He's her father, after all." Daniel clenched his fists, his breathing heavy with the anger burning in his chest. He may be her biological father, but he'll never be her dad." Camila chuckled softly, a mix of bitterness and exhaustion. "You're stronger than I thought, Daniel. I expected you to break sooner." Ignoring her, Daniel stood up. He needed to go back to Sophia. She was the only thing that mattered now. He had a clear mission: protect his daughter, even if it meant burying Anna's secret forever. Back home, Daniel climbed to the attic, where he had found the box with Anna's memories. He picked up an old photo of Anna holding baby Sophia. He stared at the picture for a long moment, a solitary tear escaping his eye. The pain was real, but something stronger overshadowed it: love. That night, as he tucked Sophia into bed, Daniel sat beside her. The little girl looked at him with her big, curious eyes. "Daddy, are you sad?" she asked, gently touching his hand. Daniel smiled, a smile filled with emotions. "No, my love. I was just thinking about how lucky I am to be your daddy." Sophia grinned, satisfied, and snuggled under the blanket. "Love you, Daddy," she whispered, closing her eyes. Daniel stayed there for a few more minutes, watching her sleep. He knew there was still a lot ahead: confrontations, difficult decisions, and truths that would need to be buried forever. But in the end, he would do anything for Sophia. With Anna's letter still tucked away in his pocket, Daniel made a decision. The past would remain in the past. The love he had for Sophia was greater than any secret, greater than betrayal, greater than pain. He turned off the light, and as he left the room, felt he had made the right choice. The day dawned with an apparent calm, but Daniel knew the storm was still lurking. Sophia played in the yard, laughing like any happy child, unaware of the chaos unfolding around her. Daniel watched her through the window, his heart torn between the unconditional love he felt for her and the weight of the truth he now carried. Anna's letter remained in his pocket, a reminder of the devastating secret. He knew he had to face Leonardo. He couldn't let him claim Sofia or get close to her with the intention of causing more damage. But how could he prevent that without exposing the truth to Sofia? Every step he took from that moment on would require extreme caution. With his resolve clear, Daniel went to the office. As soon as he entered Leonardo's office, he found the man sitting behind his desk, his cold and satisfied gaze suggesting he had already won. "It's not going to work, Leonardo. You're not going to take Sofia from me," Daniel said, his voice low but firm. Leonardo smiled provocatively. "Do you think you can fight the truth? She's my daughter, Daniel, and sooner or later, she'll know." Daniel clenched his fists, holding back the anger burning inside him. "You'll never be her father. A father isn't someone who conceives a child, it's someone who raises and loves them, and Sofia will never be yours. I won't let you." Leonardo leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with hatred and frustration. "Do you think you can stop me?" "I don't think, I know," Daniel replied, turning to leave. "And if I have to drag you to hell with me, I will, but you'll never get near her again." Back home, Daniel knew that Leonardo wouldn't give up easily, but he was prepared for anything. Nothing, absolutely nothing, would make him hand over Sofia. The promise he had made to Anna, even without knowing the truth, was still alive. He would protect his daughter at all costs. Later that night, he called Sofia to talk. The little girl, always attuned to her father's emotions, sensed that something important was about to be said. Daniel sat with her on the couch and pulled her close, his heart heavy, but his mind determined. "Sweetheart, I need to talk to you about something important," he began gently. Sofia looked at him with her big, curious eyes, holding his hand trustingly. "What is it, Daddy?" Daniel took a deep breath, carefully choosing his words. "I just want you to know one thing. No matter what happens, I am and always will be your daddy. Nothing can change that. Do you understand?" Sofia tilted her head as if pondering his words. Then she smiled and answered with the simplicity of a child, "You're my daddy. You've always been." Those words lifted the weight from Daniel's heart. He hugged her tightly, feeling the purity of the love between them. As the night wore on and Sofia slept peacefully in her bed, Daniel reflected on everything that had happened. He knew that Leonardo remained a threat, but he also knew that the battle wasn't just about who had a right to Sofia. It was about love and true fatherhood, about being there even when life was unbearable. With Anna's letter still tucked away, Daniel decided the truth would die with him. Sofia would never need to know. She was his daughter, and that was all that mattered. The battle for their future was far from over, but Daniel was ready. He had what mattered most, Sofia's love and the certainty that together they could face anything. The morning brought a gentle breeze, and sunlight filtered softly through the windows. In the kitchen, the smell of fresh coffee mingled with the sound of Sofia's light footsteps as she ran around the house, excited for another day. Daniel watched her as he prepared breakfast. That simple scene, full of life, was proof that they had managed to leave the past behind. After everything that had happened, Camila and Leonardo were no longer part of their lives. After being discharged from the hospital, Camila was fired from the company and faced legal consequences for her actions. Leonardo, realizing he would never break Daniel, abandoned any attempt to claim Sofia. Daniel and Sofia's new routine continued. The house, once marked by grief and pain, now overflowed with love and hope. Father and daughter were closer than ever. Despite everything, Daniel had found a new reason to believe in life. Sofia. "Daddy, can we go to the park today?" Sofia asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Daniel smiled, feeling his heart warm. "Of course, my love. We can do whatever you want." As they finished breakfast, Sophia ran off to grab her toys. Daniel watched her lovingly, reflecting on everything they had overcome together. The past didn't define them. The family they were building every day was based on love and choice, not blood. Later at the park, Daniel and Sophia walked hand in hand. The wind rustled the leaves, and the laughter of children filled the air. Sophia paused for a moment and looked at her father as if she had something important to say. "Daddy, do you think Mommy is happy in heaven?" she asked with pure innocence. Daniel knelt to her level and gently stroked her face. "I'm sure she's very happy, sweetheart, and very proud of you." Sophia smiled, satisfied with the answer. "I'm happy too, Daddy. We're a family, right?" Daniel pulled her into a tight hug, feeling tears welling up in his eyes. "Yes, Sophia, we're a family, and we always will be." In that moment, Daniel realized that no matter what fate had in store for them, the strength of the family they had built was greater than any secret, betrayal, or past pain. With Sophia by his side, Daniel knew they were ready to write a new story, no longer bound by the shadows of what had been, but hand in hand with the future they would choose together, day by day. As they walked away, Sophia laughing and pulling her father toward the swings, Daniel finally felt at peace. He had learned the most important lesson. Family isn't just about shared blood, it's about being present, loving unconditionally, and choosing to stay, even when everything seems to be falling apart. And with that certainty in his heart, father and daughter moved forward, ready for a new beginning. If you enjoyed this emotional journey full of twists and turns, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new content. Now tell me in the comments, what would you have done in Daniel's place? Would you keep the secret about Sophia's true paternity, or would you reveal the truth to her and Leonardo? This story showed us that family is much more than blood ties, and that tough choices shape who we truly are. So I want to know, how do you think Daniel's decision will impact his and Sophia's future? Let's discuss it in the comments. Oh, and if you enjoyed this plot full of mysteries and emotions, share the video with your friends. Who knows, they might join the discussion too. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.